Russ Braun, artist on The Boys and multiple other things with Garth Ennis, and you're on Splash Pages.
Excelsior! And hello, everybody. Welcome back to Terrific Con. We've got the excellent, most requested Mr. Russ Braun here. And, sir, how are you doing today?
Doing well.
Everybody's really nice. They're really doing well, and they're like, how are you doing? And I don't know how to respond to that, so we're going to get into the questions. So, obviously, we're going to talk about some of your comics work, but I was doing some research, and at one point, you were having trouble finding work, and you ended up working with Disney Animation. So you worked on Tarzan, Emperor's New Groove, Brother Bear. You worked on Lilo and Stitch. And while I would love to show how good of a Kronk impression I have, I would really love to hear about some of those experiences working on all of these great films and whatnot. So please.
Well, yeah, I had done an internship with Disney right out of college. I'd already gotten comic work at that time, so I'd drawn Batman, and I was working on War of the Gods with George Perez. And then the opportunity came to do this internship down at Disney, learn animation. So I went down there, Florida, and it was a great time. I didn't want to stay and do any work with them for that, doing cleanup, which is the job they had available. I wanted to do story, if anything. So I left, came back up, and kept doing comics. Halfway through the 90s, they would call every year to see if you wanted to come down and work on the movies. And then they called for Mulan, and I said, you know, that would be a good change of pace right now. Okay. Freelance has slowed down quite a bit for me in comics. I was working on a graphic novel that the funding fell through and the whole thing after it was like halfway done. The division collapsed. So I went down to Disney and became one of the many bodies working on the comic. Yeah. I mean, on the movie. But again, it's an honor to be a part of these things. These things have a legacy like you can't believe. Yeah. And but it's really grunt work. I mean, the fact that most of it is done, this is all hand-drawn animation at the time. Most of it's done on a computer now, and that makes so much more sense in a weird sort of way, because the part of the job I did, glorified tracer, you know, a lot of things you're doing in-betweens of character, doing the same motion, and it can be pretty tedious. Right. There's fast animation, slow animation, but a lot of times there's a scene where Mulan just shrugs, and you have to draw line over line over line over line. Wow. It gets very tedious. But yeah, the whole thing was an honor. It lasted 7 years down there. And then they closed up the studio and said, get out and find something else to do. So I did.
And it's so funny because, you know, we've seen more of a return, like that request for that old school hand-drawn animation. I've heard a lot of especially hardcore Disney fans. So, I mean, we would love to talk about that later. But another thing is The Boys, your book with Garth Ennis. You did a long collaboration. I think you said you were in the later half of the book, like 2 years, 3 years?
I did the last 2 years of the book, pretty much finished it up. Derek came back on to do the last issue. Right. But yeah, no, I was joking. Now that the series is a big hit TV show, you know, I'm not connected with it in any way, unfortunately. I wasn't the creator. It's a creator-owned book, so Garth and Derek have all the money, and I just did work for hire. So, so I met the cast at a convention, and I told them I'm your comic stepdad, you know, and I'm a pretty shitty stepdad because I killed most of you. So, but yeah, I got to do all the climactic stuff in the story, which was kind of amazing for me to be a part of it, and yeah, it was one of my favorite things I've ever worked on.
I mean, I love the series. I think they're doing great work adapting it, but also kind of changing it in ways that make sense, but still stay true to what you and Garth and Derek really laid the groundwork. It's a great homage, and I also love. There's always articles about people like, oh, you know, it's like in the book. I was like, what? Like it's always those people. I'm like, did you read the book? Because the books, well, those are even weirder. So like, be careful what you wish for, because then you're going to get hero-gasm. So
exactly, everyone talks about hero-gasm, the TV version of it, and I'm like, you should read the book. It's a lot worse.
That's exactly what I said when I pitched it. I was like, guys, it's this, and they were like, do you want us to get canceled? And I'm like, I mean, I could use some sleep. I don't know about you, but so that, and then another thing, and this is kind of a personal question for me, is you worked on the tail end of the Hitman stuff with Garth Ennis. You know, you did Six Pack and Dog Welder, which, as a Hitman fan, I That was a little weird even for me, and but still loved it. So I mean, you're following up John McCrea, his kind of manic. So you're fitting in there, and you're continuing that story. So what was that like? And then on top of it, what you and Garth did to Hellblazer was pretty funny. And I have a friend who's dressed as that version, my friend Kevin Borchardt. He's shown up with the space helmet and the John Constantine can't get a cigarette lit. Yeah. So what was that like working with Garth, kind of being the stepdad to Six Pack and all that?
That was a blast to work on, and I only worked on it because John was busy doing other projects, and Garth needed someone to draw it, and I said sure. It was like perfect timing to be a part of that wacky world, and but John McCrea is the man for Hitman and all that. I mean, in a way, I feel bad that I did that too. Like I feel bad that I'm the guy who killed all of Derek's characters in The Boys, and I feel bad that John didn't have time to do Six Pack and Dog Welder, Hard Traveling Heroes, but. It's a crazy story. I got to draw some actual DC comics characters like Hellblazer, like Constantine, and Catwoman's in there. A bunch of different characters show up. Power Girl, and the Spectre.
Yep.
But the best part of it is doing the outer space stuff where Dog Welder basically saves the universe, by welding the dog stars together. So, and yeah, no, I mean, I've had a long career. And a lot of the stuff I do is just making sure that I'm telling the story the way that it should be told, even if I have to follow up on somebody else. Right. So I still do my thing, basic storytelling, and make sure that it's not too jarring for fans that are expecting John McCrea or expecting Derek Robertson or whatever. So.
Well, as someone who read it and had it signed by you and Garth, you did a great job. So I believe the expression is keep on keeping on. As we will, check out our coverage. Everybody, we got a lot of great content still coming. So, Mr. Braun, thank you again. And, yeah, that was good.